Stories of the past, roots and tradition, memories are cast in an Appalachian reunion. A taste of heritage, screen porch suppers, tales tall as a mountain ridge as we go deeper in the holler.
Hey everybody, so I am talking to Mick again today because we had enough in that session when we sat down to break it up into 2 episodes, really, because I like to keep these to about 30 minutes each. So we're going to continue that conversation with Mick. Well, Mick grew up on the lake.
I did grow up kind of on the
but
lake.
that wasn't the same thing.
Yeah, Dad was at the lake. People that know us this, but anyway, he had a bad wreck in the 70s, in the mid-70s. Lost an arm, his other hand didn't work too well, but he done more than you. I mean, he got out and mowed hay for the neighbors.
He did more than most people.
He chopped silage. He got out and mowed the yards. He plowed the gardens and worked on vehicles and all that. If you were helping him and he was putting in a bolt, you'd say, Dad, I can do that. And I'll get it. And you just learn. You go in the house and come back 30 minutes later, and it may or may not be.
He'd still be working on it, but he had the patience of...
But he did. I went to the beach one year, and a friend of mine come by and said, your daddy's out there. Said, he's building you a bigger porch, because he had heard me say I wanted a bigger deck. Come back and had a bigger deck. I asked the friend, I'm like, and you didn't stop and help that poor old man, him out there with one arm doing it.
Poor old one-armed man.
He used to smoke, and when I bought the house, this is where Jimmy come along, he'd sit out there on the front porch and throw his cigarette butts down the yard, and then I'd make him go out there and pick them up. And he said one year, he said, what would you think if somebody come by and said, that poor old one-armed man's out there picking up them butts? I said, I'd say that one-armed man shouldn't have thrown them down on the ground. He finally quit at 60 when he started having health issues, but, a little bit too late. But still yet, he did, we grew up on the lake. He was at the lake, especially as the years went by. Sometimes he was there every weekend, Thursday through Sunday. And when I was, younger in my 20s, I spent a lot of time down there. We'd go water skiing, kneeboarding, tubing. He liked to fish, but when it get real hot like that, he didn't care. So I did a lot of that, had a lot of fun. But at the same time, they were not people that he didn't want to go anywhere else. I don't really think Mom did. It's hard to say, but they never went
anywhere.
They were
homebodies.
Yeah. His vacation, he was on vacation every day, so he didn't care if he went anywhere as long as he went to the lake. And so we didn't do no traveling as kids. So I like going places that we dream up. So we had a bucket list when we got married, sort of. That, where would we like to go? And I'd always wanted to go to Key West. Couldn't find nobody that wanted to go. And then I always wanted to go to Maine. And we've talked about Oregon. We ain't been out to Oregon.
We've been to Savannah and Charleston.
A lot of it's on the southeast coast because for whatever reason, it's not because it's beachy. Although I will say Rhode Island, we forgot Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah.
The rocky beaches in Rhode Island and Maine, I like better. I think because we're not beachy people that want to lay in the sun and with all day long and burn our
those huge rock coasts are just beautiful.
The huge rocky coasts and the water coming in. I could sit there all day and listen to that. But, and it's not as hot. We were up there in September. I don't really enjoy doing it when it's 90 degrees. But,
right. Now, we were talking earlier, and you said growing up, you'd never been in a hotel room.
No.
Because y'all never went anywhere.
No, we never went anywhere.
So where was the first time that you were actually booked a hotel room and stayed somewhere in a hotel? Do you remember?
I don't know that.
You don't know?
At home.
Well, no, I know it wasn't at home, but after you moved out, you took your first vacation, or did you go somewhere before you actually moved out?
Oh, it was probably in Gatlinburg, I mean, because there was friends we had I had before Jimmy come along that, or it might have been in Myrtle. It was probably in Myrtle at the beach in Myrtle Beach. But I had been to Gatlinburg in my 20s and, at some point and stayed the night, but not with my parents. They never went anywhere. Even if they had the money. And I mean, they lived very simply. You're talking about people that didn't have the internet, didn't have cable for years because it didn't come by the house. No cell phones.
Did they get a satellite when those
At some
popular?
point, they got not in the beginning because Mom didn't want that damn big thing in the yard.
That big old dish.
So later on, though, it's okay
Which at one time people joked was the West Virginia state flower.
But when it was sitting on the porch, it wasn't near the what is it?
Obstruction.
Yeah, obstruction or whatever.
Eyesore.
The eyesore. It wasn't near the eyesores. It was sitting in the yard for some reason, and she liked it. But, you know, we lived in areas that none of that stuff was available for years and years and years. And,
Oh, yeah. We've been to Martha's Vineyard, too.
Yes, Martha's Vineyard. We really did like Martha's Vineyard.
Everything on the Cape.
Didn't make it to Nantucket.
But I think that's funny that, I mean, not that everybody needs to be in a hotel when they're a kid at any point on vacation.
No, but
I think the only hotel we ever stayed in was when my great-grandmother, great-grandfather passed away. I think great-grandfather passed away, and we had to stay in a hotel for the funeral. And that was, I mean, we thought that was
But no, we did go
the coolest
camping.
thing.
We went tent camping a lot.
We went camping a lot.
And then he graduated to a pop-up. And then he graduated to a pull camper.
Yeah.
And then he started putting his camper down there permanently until he sold it.
See, we went in the other
years later.
direction. We had a pop-up, and Dad sold it because we needed the money. And I can still remember Mom telling the story over and over again. He sold that thing for $800, and somebody gave him $100 and said they'd come back with the rest. And they never came back. So he sold that pop-up for $100. And we had used it a lot when I was a kid. And we even used to camp out in the backyard in that thing until he sold it. And every now and then we'd see it going down the road. Dad would get so mad because he wanted to chase him down and get his $700 out of him. So after that, we did tent
It's
camping.
like being poor. You don't, as Dolly says, and yes, I like Dolly.
Yeah.
But
Who doesn't?
you don't know you're poor unless somebody starts pointing out some things that, you realize, But growing up, we didn't know we were poor. Now, as they got better jobs and we got better at things and we got a little bit older, I wouldn't say they were poor. They were probably middle class and didn't know they were middle class. But at the same time, they lived very simply, you know, no vacations.
They lived like they were still poor people.
Like they were still poor. They didn't go, we never went out to eat. It was rare if we went out to eat.
Well, there was
Very
the drive-in.
rare.
What was the drive-in you always?
Ham's drive-in. But that was like, Dairy Queen once in a while.
The Dairy Dream, right?
Dairy Dream. Yeah,
Dairy Dream.
down there in Bullscap. But those were things that it wasn't like we're busy, let's pick this up, no, you eat at home because it was so expensive to eat out, and they didn't waste their money. And every now and then, if we were out and about going to a doctor or something, as kids, she would stop at Ham's there in Greenville. A lot of people loved Ham's drive-in. But that was more or less when we were kids.
Is Ham's still around?
No.
No, but the Dairy Dream is still.
Dairy Dream is there. Yeah. But, you know, people live differently now. But, I mean, Mom would have never thought, I need the internet or cable or a cell phone. No, she would have never thought.
Oh, gosh, when I came along, she hated cell phones.
Yeah,
hated them. She wouldn't call you on your cell phone.
No.
She refused.
Until we said, we don't have a home phone no more.
Yeah, we were transferring ours over to a different service, and our home phone went out, and they didn't get it hooked back up. And she started calling the cell phone, and they were like, well, we're not getting a home phone anymore. And we went straight to cell phones. Yeah. And then she got used to it. And eventually she used a cell phone. And she still.
Not your typical cell phone.
No.
It looked like one of the home phones, you know, that they have now. But it wasn't. It was cell phone. We just didn't tell her anything.
We had her a little backup flip phone, and she used it up until she moved.
And
but occasionally,
she
and then
that's where she could figure it out.
Yeah. She moved to Florida in with his brother.
Thank goodness.
Mick took a lot of years to take care of his dad when he was, even before he really got sick. I mean, when we knew he was
the last
not
couple
doing
of years
well.
was hard.
And then through his sickness, and then taking care of his mom and doing everything for her. So
her movement. Well, she was getting. And we don't want to stay on this long, but we'll put this out there. She was getting depressed every day. Of course, she was living up there by herself. Yeah. She really didn't want nobody else there, but then she didn't like living by herself either, I don't think, or at least at the nighttime. Yeah. And just a lot of issues with being up there, nowhere around, out in the middle of nowhere. It was challenging to keep that going for as long as we did do it. Yeah. As far as taking her groceries,
because it's about 25 minutes from where we live. She
wasn't cooking, but you know, it just got for her. It got really, and then she was getting some dementia, and so left with the choices there at the end was like, okay, something was going to have to change, and either she was going to have to go into some type of assisted living center or somebody was going to have to move in with her. She couldn't stand the ideas of somebody moving in with her, and it wasn't going to be me. So we would have had to hire somebody to do
Right,
that.
and we don't have room at our house.
No.
We couldn't have brought her here because we don't have another.
We would have had to sell everything, buy a bigger house, and we looked at that. We never really seriously considered it, because when we looked, it's like, well, we would end up in debt, and this is all paid for. So it's not to say we wouldn't do it if we wanted to or if we had to, but she wasn't really somebody that I don't think really wanted somebody living in close proximity to her. If she'd had her own space.
But then at some point she decided she wanted to go to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, my brother's in Florida, so in Tampa, and the prospect of waking up to sunny skies every day appealed to her a lot better, and we also thought that may help. And he was willing. He had been willing for several years now, and had asked her before, "Are you sure you don't want?" No.
Your dad would have probably gone in a heartbeat if it was just him. But
so she's been down there now over a month, and it's working out. I'm sure there's
adjustments, but
should help the depression, should help the outlook of life. So glad to see that happening. So now we're in the process of taking care of what's left.
Cleaning things up there. He'll always you'll still be involved in taking care of her, but doing the business end of things, the financial end of things.
Place. And honestly, it's time to move on, start a new chapter. So before that was partly what kept me here, but also at the same time, it's not going to change my outlook. I still don't want to be in a room full of 500 people or 50 people for that matter.
Yeah, if we ever have to go to a facility, we want a small one that we're not, we still like to keep things pretty simple. But this year, where are we going on vacation? Let's get back to vacations.
Yes,
where are we going?
We're going to New Hampshire.
Yep.
To Portsmouth. I say Portsmouth.
Portsmouth.
And we hope, and we will, we're staying long enough there. We're going to drive over into Maine again, because we really do like Maine. We want to explore Algonquin a little bit, Perkins Cove a little bit. We won't get back up towards the northern section, but we'll get over towards
at least southern Maine.
York and southern Maine.
And I'm trying to set up a couple of stops, a book tour stop,
but this
just
is about
while we're there.
Then we're going to go. We were going to stay in Portsmouth, but the cost of doing that compared to driving a few miles up the road, 30 minutes out or whatever, so we're staying in Dover.
We want to stay somewhere for a few nights and then be able to drive from there to where we want to go. So it kind of centralizes where we want to be.
And then from there, we're going up to the White Mountains. We're staying in Conway, but then we're staying there a couple of nights, maybe 3, I don't remember. And so we'll be exploring that area. And we're going in June, which we never travel in summer because it's always so hot and miserable, and kids are out from school. Going through, and then we're going to go over to Vermont. So going through Vermont especially, but we found out in Maine too that if you go in early June, some things are not open. So we kind of thought the same thing about parts of New Hampshire and Vermont especially. And you don't want to go into what I call stick season or mud season in Vermont. Stick season, people may know it from up there, even from here, is when all the leaves are gone. Mud season is when all the thawing starts and the roads turn to mush.
So they're about to enter mud season now,
and
probably getting
Vermont
close.
Is known that, well, I didn't know it until I started researching it, that 60% of the roads are unpaved. Now, I guess that means gravel or some type of mixture. So if you go and it's mud season, they will tell you it's not a good time to go because it is mud.
I've known people that have been up there during mud season and they said it's pretty messy.
So, we even talked about this at one point, the way the laws are geared in this state, especially towards our kind of people.
Our kind.
That at some point, we're going to be forced to move to the Northeast where they're friendly to us and support us. And I would be open to that, especially in Maine, Rhode Island, around Cape Cod. Of course, that's really expensive. But housing...
I told you sometimes you're going to hear sirens.
They're coming after Jimmy.
Here they come.
They come. He's did it now. But anyway, homes up there is like triple of what they are here. If we could take our home and set it on Cape Cod and get $1 million for it easily.
Easy.
And so we backed off of moving up there. Not that we would have, but we talked about what we'd want to do as we get older.
In retirement,
But this poor boy cannot stand the cold. I can stand at 90 and I'll put on a sleeveless shirt and look pretty. And I'll be on the porch with the fan going or sitting somewhere outside, whatever, as long as there's some way of relief. But I say 90, up to 90. After 90, if the humidity can get really bad and it just feels like it's 100 with no air stirring here. But it's usually long about mid-July and August when it gets that way. So it's only about a month, but I still will take that any day over the 10 and 20 degrees, even 30 degrees. I do not like it. And
I never complain about the
and
cold.
my skin has changed a little bit. No matter how much I put on and stuff, it just seems like there's somebody pricking it with needles. But I don't think I can. It's not just that it's cold, it's the length of the cold. Like here in Tennessee and East Tennessee, you might have one day it's 30 and another day it's 50, or it might be 30 at night, and you're going to fluctuate. There, you're in winter for about 3 to 6 months, and it don't give up. You don't have a nice warm day. You don't have a day where it's 50 and you can get outside or even just enjoy some sunshine. You might see the sun, but it's going to be 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean every day up there is like that, but I think we've decided as long as we can live here and not be run out of the state,
then we can travel.
Then we can travel, and we will go somewhere and stay for a month.
Yeah.
But we are, and then we're going to go over into the sidetrack, Vermont. We're going to stay in
Montpelier.
And we were going to stay on down towards Woodstock and Stowe, more around Stowe.
Well, we'll go up to Stowe and down to Woodstock.
But again, the cost of that,
yeah,
believe it or not, because Montpelier is the capital, I think, of Vermont.
I think so.
If
not, somebody educated us.
Yes.
We've been out of school a while.
I don't usually want to stay in a big town like that or big city like that. But because of the cost, we found, okay, we're going to be there long enough anyway. We would just drive down to Stowe and then drive down to Woodstock and explore a little bit. And we might even drive up towards the northern part of Vermont. I mean, it just depends on how much time we have. But we're going to be gone for 10 days.
Yeah.
So if anybody sees this and wants to check on the house, they can. We will have a pet sitter.
Because we've got a lot of animals still.
We went through a few pet sitters, but over the years, at one time we had 4 dogs, 5 cats, and then we had 3 cats that were kind of community cats.
Yeah.
We made sure they had stuff to feed, and they relied on us to be fed.
And we kept them warm.
And getting a pet sitter to come outside and feed them when it was 10 or 20 degrees in the wintertime was hard. Even in the spring or fall, if it was down to 30 or 40, it's cold out there. But they would do it to make sure they had something fed. But I did worry about them a lot more than what I did, because if it was real cold, they may not show up for 2 or 3 days. And so they've moved on. We're down to 1 puppy dog now. That was, last year was hard.
Yeah, last year was real tough.
But we can talk about it a little bit now, and they had good lives. But every now and then we see
they had really good lives. They ate better than we did, got better medical attention than we did.
One of the people that works at our wonderful vet's office told me one day, said, I want to come back as one of your all's dogs when I die.
Yeah.
So, they had very long lives. In a lot of ways, it always seems like it was shorter than it should have been, but we've been fortunate. I think we lost 1 cat long before her time was up due to cancer. But the dogs, they pretty much did live their life. I mean, they all lived at least 12 and some of them to 14 or 15. And the bigger they are, I think.
And they were all rescues, so we don't know exactly how old they were, but we knew about
and you could tell they all turned white. The big Pitty, she was 12 and ended up with cancer, and then the other 2 is about 14 and ended up with cancer. So, and
Ollie that we've got left, we know how old he is because he was a puppy when we got him. And again, he was a rescue.
He was another rescue.
He came up from Florida.
Yes, he did. And it's funny, we really don't have any desire to go to Florida, even though we went to Key West. So I done told Jimmy that I want to go to Oregon sometime.
Yeah.
California, I guess, while you're out there on the West Coast, you might as well try to make a big trip out of it.
Yeah, I've been, and I enjoyed it. I've been from LA down to San Diego, and it's
all
nice.
That. But then, and I don't know what order we'll do it, but I've decided I want to go to Mexico. I used to say I had no desire to go to Mexico.
And where is it you want to go?
I want to go to Puerto Vallarta.
I'm sorry, where, how do you say that again?
Porto. I'm going to go Porto V. We're going to call it Porto V.
PV. We'll just call it PV. Puerto Vallarta.
See, I said that
Yeah.
in my own Southern accent. I used to be told that people would say, "I just love your accent." I'm like, I have no accent.
Oh, the first time he got an answering machine and heard his own voice on it?
Yeah, I don't like to talk.
No, he doesn't like that.
I don't like to.
He's not going to like to listen to this
No.
when it airs.
No,
so.
I ain't going to either.
And he listens to everything I do or watches everything I do. So,
But Jimmy got his gardening skills from me. I don't care what he says.
yeah, exactly.
Mom and Dad used to put out, and this was when we were kids, and then when we graduated per se and left, they still did it.
Yeah.
They were 100-foot rows, and there was about 12 or 14 rows. I know there were
Yeah.
6 rows of potatoes every year, and then I don't know, 2 rows of tomatoes, and then they would do broccoli, and I don't know what beans, and then they give half the potato. Well, the potatoes they kind of kept, but they give away of the broccoli. They give away they eat tomatoes, but they would also can some tomatoes.
They canned a lot of tomato juice.
Tomato juice. But there was a lot of stuff you would have thought, and they put up a lot of beans. But they didn't put out a lot of different kinds of veggies.
No,
Really?
they did not have a wide variety of
No.
vegetables that they ate. They were
No.
pretty.
But that's, and the last year Dad was alive, it was funny that we put straw in those potato rows. And we thought, what is he doing?
Yeah,
I
he
had
told
never
us-
heard of that
so
in all those years.
Every year we would say, "Oh, we want to grow this or that." Before we'd even get up there to plant it, he'd already have it done. He'd have it done for us. So, as much as we wanted to work in the garden ourselves, he always made sure that a lot of the work was done before we got there. So the last year when we knew he wasn't doing well, I mean, we thought, this could be the last garden that he helps put out. We said, why don't you tell us what to do so we will know what to do? And we just kind of put it that way. So he sat back and he let us do it. And he told us, dig that row and put a little straw down in it.
Well, we put didn't we put the straw on the top of the potatoes?
Oh, that's true. We put the potatoes down,
because we
straw
thought
on
it'd
top
be
of the
better
potatoes.
to put the
Yeah.
straw in the bottom and put the potato on top, and that would be easier to hill them up.
Yeah.
But he insisted. So when we got done, there was straw sticking out of some areas.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to do that and get them covered good. And I'm telling you, that was probably the best potatoes I had seen come out of that garden in 20 years.
Yeah. They were huge. They were perfect. Absolutely
And
perfect
the garden
potatoes.
dirt that year was so soft.
Yeah.
Mom got, I think because he got up there and done what he needed to do. And then after and that was probably one of the best producing potato patches I'd ever seen. After he passed, she didn't want us to turn the garden. She just had a lot of issues. So
She worried too much over it.
Too many
so.
anxieties. So the dirt wasn't as good. And then we were down here and they were up there, or she was still up there and trying to do that. And then if it come a windstorm, rainstorm, she would be all fretted out over it. And it's like, okay, it just kind of went by the wayside up there.
Yeah, so
And
that's when we did
started
the raised beds.
The raised beds.
And that's why I built the greenhouse,
Yeah, and the
which is
greenhouse
now a
and all
studio and office.
So when we go off in June, we've got to rely on somebody that, we have it's always a pet sitter, and sometimes they take an interest into those things. Now, obviously, they will. If you say, can you water this plant or that plant, they will. But it depends on how much we have. But we don't usually go in June, so this will be a different time of year to go and see what it's like to be traveling with all the other tourists and that I don't want to be around. I just don't really enjoy being around a bunch of tourists. The year we went to Maine, that first year, we stayed in Algonquin. We stayed in a hotel there because everything we looked at was very,
We
very
try and
expensive.
book Airbnbs as much as we can because we like having our own space.
Having our own space and having a little kitchen and all that.
Yeah, and a place to
But
sit.
it was really
not
hard to
just a
find
bed.
anything around that area. So we stayed in a hotel, and I'm not going to name the hotel, but if you go through there, you'd probably know it. And it looked like, once we got in there, that it was an old folks' home. And we just kind of thought, oh, they've converted this from an old folks' home. It sort of had that old folks smell.
It did. It smelled a little bit like a
an
nursing home.
Old home with a lot of old, feeble people in it. And then the tourist buses were coming in and letting them out there, and some of them couldn't even hardly get off the bus, It was kind of like, did we stay at the right spot? No, we didn't, and I wouldn't stay there again. So, but they weren't friendly, were they?
No, they were not.
We think they were uncomfortable from having to stuck on that bus for God knows how many hours.
Yeah. And then they had to walk from there into town, which wasn't that far.
No.
But let me tell you, for some of them, that was a long way
And that
into the
was in
center of
September,
town.
so we hope it's not too crowded in June, and we'll make it work. We always do.
Yeah.
But,
Well, our plan is to every day we'll have a different spot to go to, because where we're staying, we can drive within an hour to lots of different places
and then
in
we've
every
not
direction.
done really much weekend trips. There was always something going on here and stuff, and plus with now that we're down to one dog, it's a little bit easier. We still
Yeah.
have the cats, but we still do pay a sitter to come. And if it's just a weekend, we probably could get away with a friend of ours coming by. But being gone 8 or 10 days or something like that, I kind of like having somebody here at the house if they will
Yeah.
do it. And it does add to the cost, but at the same time, it's worth it to us.
Yeah.
And I think even if we didn't have a dog, I think we'd probably have a sitter to come by, or at least, may not cost us quite as much with kitty cats, but we
Yeah.
do miss, when the boy goes, it'll be really quiet. We said it got really quiet in the house when that one puppy dog went.
Yeah.
She was very vocal, and we can laugh about it now. She was bossy. But, I mean,
was
just
bossy.
very, very vocal, very bossy. She let you know she was in the house. She let you know when something was going on. It got kind of quiet after that.
Yeah,
And of course,
it
we got
did.
down to one doggy, too, not long after that. So it's just different. But as we dwindle down, we don't really have plans to get another one. I wouldn't mind doing some dog sitting or something
Yeah,
like
we've
that.
talked about that. We could travel
We've got the chain
house
link
sit for
fence.
other
Yeah,
people while
or
we're
going to somebody
gone.
else's house sitting as we travel. There is websites or stuff out there that it's like House Sitters International or something, where you can travel all over the place, and all they want is somebody to come and feed their cat or something
While
like
they're
that
on
while they're on
vacation.
vacation.
Yeah.
And you kind of swap homes, or you. So that's something we've talked about. We might actually do that. I mean, it's a great way to travel, and they're taking care of yours while you're taking care of theirs.
And that could give us an opportunity to be somewhere for a longer period.
Yes.
If they're going to be out of town for a
I
couple
always
of weeks to a
said,
month or
I
something.
think I'm going to go to Mexico in January or February of next year. I hate the winters here. Other northern states, of course, is worse than here, but I just don't like it. I don't like it at all anymore. January, there's nothing good in January, let alone February.
It's not that bad.
Yes, it is.
I want to change gears for a second.
No.
So I'm going to have some different segments.
He knows
on-
I get stuck on certain things.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to have some different segments on the podcast that I'm going to talk to people about. And you're the perfect candidate for this, to talk about what I call an appocabulary. So an Appalachian vocabulary, but I call it appocabulary. What's your favorite Appalachian word? What's
I
a
don't
word
know,
that
but we're
you
going to go
use a
piddle
lot?
in the yard after a while.
Piddle is good. Piddle's a good
Yes.
word. What's something
Directly.
that you
I'll be there directly.
Directly, yeah.
Um,
When you're out in the yard, are you going to be?
I'm going to be over there.
No, you're going to be messing and gomming.
No, not out in the yard.
We'll be
No.
messing. I'll be messing and gomming in the yard while he's cleaning things
Messing
up.
gammon is when you eat.
Well, it can be when you're
It can be
making a mess.
remodeling too.
It can be just making a mess of anything.
If you're doing it yourself, it's messing and gammon. If you hire a professional, it's not. But if you do it
No.
yourself, it's messing and gammon.
Yeah, but yeah, typically. It's
Although
if
we
you're
have
eating.
had people we've hired that we said all they did was mess and gum.
Yeah.
Mess and gum is where you can't get the food in your mouth. It's all over the table. It's your plate's messy. You didn't really eat much. You just made a mess out
Just
of it.
played around with it.
And gammon is you just made a mockery out of it, and then you got it all over the place.
And sometimes he just plumb goes off on things like that, or he's
Yes.
plumb happy, or plumb mad, or plumb tired, or plumb whatever.
Yes, plum.
He's a lot of plumb.
Plum tired.
A lot.
Plum give out.
Yeah, those are. So I always on my Substack I highlight a word of the week, and a lot of them I get from Mick. Things I also heard growing up, and things I'll say like they law or something like that. Another segment that I'm going to have with people that I want to talk about, and it's something that we do. We have our screen porch suppers, so we host a lot here at the house, and we've got a screen porch that we built in 2012. Is that right?
It was built in 2013. when we got
2013.
married, because we had the reception in 2014.
That's right.
And we started out with.
We just
I
need to
wanted
build
a covered
little,
porch.
Yeah, covered porch, a bigger deck
it,
covered.
It was a deck, but it wasn't covered.
Yeah.
And then we decided Jimmy had to have it screened in.
I said, if we're going to put a roof over it, we're going to put screens
and
up.
then
I
we
want a
went on to do
screened-in
no
porch.
electric. Well, not really, but they suggested, the contractors did, do you want ceiling fans? And we're like, well, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then we wanted part of it a little bit enclosed on the bottom where you didn't see.
So the dogs didn't run straight through the screen. If they saw
Yeah.
something outside, we didn't want anybody.
And then we wanted a ceiling in it after all that.
Yeah.
We were going to leave it open, but in the end, we're very, very pleased with how it turned out. And then on the outside, we left, built another portion of it
Little deck.
for the grill.
Yeah.
And then that portion, about 2 or 3 years later, started rotting, and the
Yeah.
whole thing started rotting. And
We
it was
literally
actually
stepped through
what I
it.
call poisoning the joists or the
One of the main supports, and then the whole back wall. We had to
Yeah.
have part of the
part of
screen
that.
porch fixed
because
and
if we
replaced.
hadn't fixed it, it was going to rot out underneath the screen porch.
Yeah.
So we had to fix that. But when we did, that was another thing. Okay, it cost some money, but at the same time, we made that portion. I don't know what was in
We
our
doubled
mind
the
when
size
we
of
doubled
it.
the size of it.
Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't do that and think of that when we were building it. Why
Yeah.
did we were cutting planks off to make it the size we wanted instead of just leaving them alone and extending it down. But screen porch has been a good addition. We've done
Yeah.
so many improvements with the house over the years. Some of them I had done before he come along. If we ever get divorced, he's not getting my windows, but he can take some things and.
Well, the porch is probably his because he's out there a lot. That's why
he can have the carport.
That's why his name is Mick on the Porch. If
Yeah.
you find him on Instagram or something.
Well,
but
it sounds like I don't do anything, but
but,
you know I do
well,
everything.
But anyway, so we host a lot of screen porch suppers, and so I'm not going to ask you this because I mean you're there, you help prepare the food for it. But I'll be asking guests what they would bring to the Screen Porch Supper, and that would make them a member of the Screen Porch Supper Club. So that's another segment I'm going to have on here. But what's your favorite thing that we've ever fixed on the screen porch, to eat on the screen porch that we've had?
The reception we had, that was in 2014. We will never duplicate that.
Yeah.
We had chicken and ribs, and those ribs were the most tender ribs.
Tender
Fork
ever.
tender. We've never duplicated those ribs. I've tried just the last week or two to get some, and no, they did not turn. It's not they weren't edible, but they were not fork tender. But I'm going to pick up some spare ribs and see how those do.
Yeah.
And of course, the chicken was to die for that time. And
we've done some crab boils. Or low country boil, I should say. Low country boils out there.
But now those were done, those were
We
cooked.
did those in the house, but I'm just saying eating on the porch.
The pizza on the grill was really good.
Yeah, pizzas on the grill are really good.
In a cast iron skillet.
Yeah. Those are really
turned
good.
out really good. And then, of course, all sorts of desserts,
and we'll eat out there for ourselves. We'll eat out there any day it's nice. And we've even eaten Christmas dinner on there when it was actually a couple of times.
Not much.
But
usually by December it's too cold.
we're using the porch about 9 months out of the year. Yeah.
Usually from about some days in March, more days in April, and then sometimes in July and August it gets too hot to really eat.
We ate out there maybe once in February when it was.
Well, we can turn on the fans and it helps. But when it gets over 90, I mean, there was some days last summer, even on the porch with the fans going, it was still 95 degrees, and I just don't enjoy that. That's when we need to run off up north.
That's right.
And,
go to cooler weather.
Yeah. And in the wintertime, though, usually we have been out there in December. Well, even in January this year, we had a week where it was like 70 degrees. Every day was 70 degrees. And I'm like, I will take it. And there was people complaining. It's like, what is wrong with you? It's 70 degrees in January.
Yeah.
We paid for that, but not bad. So, I can stand it, but usually time January and February is done, I'm really done. I want spring here. So
we're always the host, and I guess we're the president and vice president of the Screen Porch Supper Club.
I'm the accountant,
but he's the accountant as well.
Yes.
So that's a segment I'm going to have on every episode when I talk to some other folks. And so we've been talking for a while. I'm going to wrap this up. I think this is probably about 2 episodes worth. So, I may have to edit some things down a little bit, but I don't think so. I think this has all been.
I need to get up and move.
I think it's all been really good. It's time to move. We got to get out, clean up the yard a little bit again. It's getting spring, and we've got to get yard work done. And so we're gonna see you later, and you'll have a great day. Thanks, Mick. Well, friends, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to the Appalachian Tale Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Proffitt. This podcast is recorded in Greenhouse Studio right here in my backyard and produced and edited by me with a little help and a lot of encouragement from my husband, Mick. You might know him as Mick on the Porch. If you've enjoyed today's episode, like, rate, and comment, and share it with someone who appreciates a good story, good food, and a little bit of Appalachia. I'll talk at you later. Y'all be safe, and let me know you got home okay.